Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of India Tonight. India Tonight is a show where we talk about the problems that India has been facing, how we can solve them, and we do call in some experts from the field to resolve these issues. So on today's show, we have from the present government, Mr. Sumit. We have from the education sector, Mittal. We have from the consulting space, from Deloitte, Aatisha. And we have the famous industrialist, Divy. Just to set a little bit of context, let's talk about unemployment. Unemployment has been rising steadily over the last few years, and it is currently at a 45-year high. Unemployment has increased from 5.9% in February 2018 to 7.2% in January of this year, which is a crazy increase. During the same period, 25 million people have actually moved out of the workforce, a steep increase from the 18.7 million that we were facing a couple of years ago. So, Sumit, what do you think is driving the increasing unemployment rates in India?
First of all, I don't believe these unemployment numbers. We have created a lot many jobs in the first year of government than any other government in the history. If you look at the EPFF scheme itself, you will see that there are 5 million new customers, new employees who have added to our national force. I'm just talking about the formal sector. And mind it, that 6.9% GDP growth has come up even after demonetization, which shows that the unemployment is actually increasing. This is just a ruse by the opposition parties to take our government down.
But Mr. Sumit, the numbers are actually showing that unemployment is increasing. What do you have to say about that?
See, I completely put the blame on Manrega, which has been the UPA scheme all along. They have been fudging up the unemployment numbers from previous years. We are providing correct employment and these numbers are being showed at a regular intervals to the people. It is because the employment in the previous years was so fudged up that the employment numbers in our years are looking very bad.
But also, what do you have to say about the fact that unemployment numbers have increased in your own regime itself? So, for example, in February 2018, the unemployment numbers were 5.8%, while right now it is 7.2%. What's happened in the last 1 year?
We have greatly reduced the funding to Manrega. You know, in Manrega what used to happen? They used to have one guy to dig up the hole and another guy to fill up that hole. There was no use of those particular employment, and we are trying to create new employment which is useful for the country.
Alright, Mr. Sumit. Mittal, what are the other factors that you think is contributing to the unemployment?
So I completely disagree what Mr. Sumit here has to say. I think India is fighting a huge unemployment problem here. And for me, the government that has to deal with this problem doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, India still is battling the problem and we need to find a way to fix it. Unemployment numbers have been going up over the last 5 years. In my opinion, what seems to be the reason is the massive skill gap. We are definitely creating jobs, but are we creating the right jobs? That is the question. How do we create the right jobs? Today, our tech is improving. We've got new innovations coming in, but we don't have the requisite manpower to handle these innovations. The government here needs to come in and train people. The private sector needs to be incentivized to upskill individuals, to train them to take up these sort of new roles. In my opinion, this is what we need to focus on. It's no longer about whose fault it is and whether we are facing the problem or not. We need to pull up our socks and find a way to fix this.
I think that is very, very well put, Mittal. However, one thing that I think that you did not cover when you were talking was the overdependence that Indians seem to have on seasonal occupations.
Right.
So, for example, if you look at agriculture or if you look at fishing, these are seasonal occupations and Indians are overdependent on these things.
Yes.
So, I'll pose this question to Aatisha. How do you think we can tackle those problems?
So I feel that I don't agree with Sumit and I agree with Mittal on the fact that unemployment is a major problem, and the fact that there are three broad kinds of unemployment. So first is structural unemployment, which is especially dominant in rural areas, where a lot of the new technologies which are coming up are making the jobs of all these villagers which are more used to manual work or low skilled work. So these jobs are becoming obsolete. And also in urban areas we see a lot of frictional unemployment, which is basically there are people who feel they are overqualified or they don't get the salaries which they desire, and because of that they leave jobs and search for better opportunities.
Is that why the number of people leaving the workforce has been increasing?
That is one of the reasons based on a recent survey that we conducted.
I think
मुझे कुछ बोलना है. But this is
Sumit, please respect the audience of the show. This is an English program, so let's have a conversation in English.
So I will address that question in two parts. So government has been trying its best to come up with all the upscaling of education. We have recently you have seen the ad. I don't know if many people are joining or not, but recently you must have seen the ad that we are trying to tell people to get trained in a particular job they want to apply for, so that the employment goes up. Another thing is if we are not able, why is Modi ji going to foreign countries? We are trying to get as much as foreign capital as possible, so that people can find easy jobs at higher rates as world standards.
So then I would like,
while-
it's all nice to hear, but what is happening on the ground? Where are these investments going? How many schools have you all set up all this while?
Alright, Sumit, Michelle, Aatisha, I'd like to interrupt you guys and actually ask Div this question, because he's coming from the operations and industrial area. So we do know that there has been a little bit of push towards FDI in this space, but what more can be done from the government's standpoint to encourage entrepreneurs to ensure that industrialism remains alive?
So as Mr. Sumit mentioned a while ago, he talked about all the vocational courses that are going around, the FDI and everything. Coming from a ground level, I can easily tell you the labor market is not what we need to excel. We need a lot more reforms. The problem is at the grassroots level. Contractual laborers are stuck in a vicious cycle from where they are switching jobs from agriculture, they're coming to the urban areas, and they're not getting employed.
Is it because they're not skilled at those things?
Exactly. That's the problem. So Mr. Sumit here talked about all the vocational courses that the government is running, but where are the numbers? What is happening with those numbers? What is the skill level of those people? How are you making them aware that they need to do something like that? How would they know what is the right job for them to pick?
Now that we're talking about skill level, I think Michelle's the right person to talk about this, since she comes from the education space. How do we upskill? How do we take people to the next level in terms
I think there are two answers to that question, and the government has a very important role to play here. First and foremost, the government needs to come in and place an emphasis on certain sectors. We know that India is at the forefront when it comes to technology, but how are we ensuring that technology actually trickles down to a wider audience? How are we ensuring that our students have access to the latest studies in technology, so that they are more qualified when it comes out to practical industry work? So I think my first suggestion would be that the government needs to prioritize certain educational reforms in a way, structure their reforms in such a way that they place great emphasis on technology. And secondly, the private sector needs to be incentivized to come out and retrain, upskill their employees again when it comes to specific skills. So that is what I believe.
Alright, thank you so much, Michelle. So we'll get back to the part where you talked about how the private sector needs to incentivize, and we'll talk to Div about this as well, but that's after this short commercial break.